Say that again. I want to record that.
Uh, testing. It says the new world order is to live and let live. This is to be explained. To live and to let live is to make the differences of realization of the self be all the same value. No one is nearer to God than the one who is in love with God. So, the pamphlet travail of the New World Order basically comes down to stop fighting. And until you get sick of it, you're not going to stop fighting. So, man, stop fighting and live and let live. But that doesn't seem possible these days.
Well, there's only so much one can control, but at the same time, there is much that one can control. And that is the self.
That's it. It's an interesting thing. The context of what is new in this Advent is the transition from the age of reason to the age of intuition. And in the age of intuition, when you think of that, is switching from looking to the outward to the external and trying to understand it through reason and, the external language whatever language we speak. Now we're going internally, and that empowers the individual. So trying to make sense of everything, that we only have to go in the direction of our own inner reality, which is God impersonal. And that, instead of emphasizing the differences and reasons, which is the basis of wars and everything else problematic in the relative world, to have the inner direction is to empower. And like you said, everyone is in the same boat. We all have that inner reality within us. And it seems like the intuitive language, the mystical language, however it's experienced, is a way to enable that to become a reality. You live and let live because we know that everyone's own reality is the same reality.
There are lots of tools, paths, methods, whatever. One of the things that I enjoy about Christianity is for me, there's a sense that Jesus had this, kind of conflict with Sadducees and Pharisees. And what was that about? Well, they were very tied to the status quo, and the letter of the law, they felt, gave them the authority. And it was that letter of the law that they held in such high esteem. And what Jesus came is to point out the rigidity of the letter of the law and awakening his followers to the spirit of the law. And Mayor Baba has come to awaken to that spirit more broadly, or generally, which is the same as Jesus was really doing. But that distinction between the letter of the law and the spirit of the law, and to understand that, again, it has to be intuitive, but it's also innate and in everyone.
Yeah, I was struck too, in terms of when we look to the externals and we see so many selves and so many potential areas of conflict and division. And when we look inward, that goes away. It enables the experience of calm to be cultivated. I lost track of what I was going to say.
Kind of going off of that, if you have a project and there's a lot of pressure, but you've done as well as you can do, there's a sense of peace. And that's what this brings.
Yeah. And the thing about what I was pointing to was the thing that the mystical language as in these articles through Princess Nerina Machiavelli demonstrates is that within these articles, she is having a dialogue or an interaction between Baba as the Lord, as God, personal, and her own experience, her own portion, her own perspective within her own consciousness. And that's ultimately, in the age of intuition, what is open to all of us. And that is to experience the inner reality, which is the only real reality, to go in that direction and to let the world be as it is, live and let live. And there's great freedom and peace in that.
It seems that Bob is doing the surgery on humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And like Henry Cashowdy says, Bob is doing something so vast
Yeah.
that he's working yada yada, but you're not doing anything bad. You're just working on yourself, you know. You're and when he says in here that Baba says, when you love me, you love the whole world. Well, that, to me, that's it. You know, I don't have to go out, but again, he's saying love everybody. So it's difficult. It's difficult.
I love
everybody.
Agnes Barron interacted with Mayor Baba around that, and I think the gist of it is Baba conveyed that you don't need to like everybody, but you do need to love everybody. We used to sign our correspondence with like.
Well, that's some good stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm still confused on the impersonal, God impersonal.
Well, there's two things I might mention. One is the idea that God is selfless. That was when he was talking about, you know, I enjoy doing good. I enjoy giving comfort. I enjoy making war. I enjoy making pain, and it's because it's the self isn't involved in it. He's not. It's you know what we do when you were talking about in our own particular lives. That's just the play of our sanskaras unfolding. And the tendency when the mind is involved is the mind appropriates responsibility for the play of our sanskaras by experiencing guilt or all these value judgments. Whereas if we surrender them to God, then the sanskaras can actually dissipate and not create new sanskaras. Um, and so, and then the other thing is that Baba says, when you were talking about the magnitude of what Baba is doing, what Henry Kashauti said, Baba in that second mystical life message says, in terms of the meaning behind I come not to teach but to awaken, is that there's nothing we have to do. He is doing the process of self-realization, and we just have to get out of the way. Put the mind out of the way. So, and then you just recognize, I mean, so we just have to do what we do in each of our unique lives. Let live and let live, including ourselves.
A couple of things on that with respect to the impersonal. Hey, Betty. Meow. My wife isn't a Baba follower, and she really gravitates to the impersonal. So for her, you know, that's how she relates to Great Spirit or whatever. And then what is our responsibility? Kind of riffing off of what Jonathan was just saying, and it's to meet the moment in a way that our best understanding comports with pleasing God. And, you know, that's something that we know some of, a little of. The Meher Baba helps us to understand better. And that's what we have to work with. learn more. And, you know, the Mandali, you just look at any of them, they were dialed in. They give you the example. It's not words, it's example.
Mm.
You know,
And then you have Betty's cat, and Betty's cat tells you everything you need to know.
I just, Mara comes to my mind, that Baba says she loved him as he should be loved. And something I heard that she said at the last darshan, remember, beloved Baba, don't forget him for a moment. He loves to be loved. So it's a memory, because a lot of times I don't feel I love Baba. I mean, I don't feel
Yeah.
capable of it,
Right.
but I can remember, you know, I can say his name, you know.
Yeah.
I've had some points in time where I thought, well, it is really love, it's love. And I knew when I was in my grace times in India, I would watch Mara, because she knew I didn't really see her as a personality. I saw Mani personality, Erich, all of them, Adi, but I didn't feel personality. She only wanted you to love Baba.
Interesting observation. I think spot on.
That was her being, to love Baba. And that's, you know, that's what she was doing. And I'd always, it's like I was yanked out of Mandali Hall. No matter, it was, I remember on Sunday, it was like a cosmic ping pong game between Money and Erich back and forth. I mean, it is so good. And I always, and then someone would come and say, Mara's on the porch. And no matter what, you know, what the thrill of the moment was there. And I never felt anything like, how could you leave? This is so good. I never, ever felt that, no matter how good it was going. And I'm sure I wouldn't have wanted to be around when Baba dropped his body, because the jolt to them, the jolt to the Mandali, you know, and his body was going down. I mean, you know, just that universal pain. It was like, whoa. And they still wanted him, you know. Mara called for him to come back, you know, and uh, uh, but just the humility. I mean, she truly was humble love, humble. You know, she just loved him. You know, and she knew he was God. You know, she knew he was the Lord, but she loved him. You know, and I mean,
Her,
it's a simple example. We have the example.
her biography by David Fenster is something I've started reading and have enjoyed very much, and learning more about Mara. And
Oh yeah, it's great. I
Yeah.
mean, it's like you find out so much. I keep rereading it because
Yeah.
it's just chock full of loving Baba, you know, just
Bing, when you mentioned Mara's suffering, you probably heard it, but Peter
Booth.
Booth gave a talk there. I think it was the year before last.
2024.
Yeah,
It was
20
about Mara's part in the accident.
And he said it was literally, he made a big point about that it was 50-50. They
Oh,
both
yeah.
experienced it. As the
Baba
cat-
said half.
Yeah.
Is that on
Take
YouTube?
note. Yeah. And I hope that's available at the Heart Center.
Yeah, it is.
I
because
mean,
it's
is it
on,
you
it's
could
on the
just go
center,
in?
it's
Because
on
I
the,
tell people about it, because I immediately says, people have to know this, you know. A lot of people won't make it to the accident site. It's not necessary.
Right.
You know.
Where would one find Peter's talk?
it was the talk for this celebration, May 24th, 2024.
So is it
2024.
on Heartland
Should be on the
website?
Heartland website.
Yeah, I would.
Right.
I immediately said that has to be on. You have to have that available for people. It was very, very beautiful. It was beautiful.
What was the 50-50 again? I missed that.
The suffering of Baba's suffering. He said Mara literally suffered, shared half of the
half
suffering.
of the suffering, you know.
In the accident,
Right.
Yeah.
physically.
And there is that, it's short. I don't know who took it, but it's just women, Mandali and Mara's there, and Mara's saying her remembrance of the accident. And you know, that accident went like that, but her memory was that Baba turned around and said, "Are you all right, Mara?" And she's holding her head. She remembers holding her head and saying, yes, Baba. And he asked her again, "Are you all right?" And then she didn't remember anything after that. But he was only concerned. I mean, I'm sure he had such a horrible trip on the Trail of Tears because he knew she would have to suffer that.
Mm.
And you know, to see true love like that, she was only one to know if he was all right. He only wanted to know if she was all right. I mean, it can't get any better. Wow.
Mayor Baba. J. Mayor Baba, folks.
Jay, thank